How much could you make in 2 hours in starting with just $5? That was the challenge, you see. 14 teams, same $5, same 2 hours. And one more thing, at the end, each team had exactly 3 minutes to present what they did. Most teams focused on the money, but the team that made the most didn't. A professor at Stanford gave her students this assignment. Once they opened the envelope, they had 2 hours to act. The goal was simple: make as much money as possible. Most teams approached it the same way. They focused on the $5. How do we use it? How do we multiply it? So they built small, practical ideas: car washes, lemonade stands, buying and reselling, reasonable approaches. But all built on one assumption, that the $5 was the opportunity. They fell into car wash thinking. They assumed the resource in their hand was the engine of the project. They worked hard, they sweated, and they turned that $5 into 50, a 900% return. In most companies, that's a win, but in the context of the actual opportunity, it was a failure of imagination. A few teams saw things differently. They stepped back and questioned what actually mattered. They realized the $5 wasn't the opportunity. It was just the most obvious thing in front of them. It was a distraction. One team noticed long lines at restaurants. They made reservations ahead of time and sold those spots to people who didn't want to wait. Another team set up a stand to check bicycle tire pressure. They made it free and asked for donations. People gave more because they weren't reacting to price. They were responding to value. But then came the reveal. Every team had 3 minutes to present their results. Only one team saw that presentation for what it was: an opportunity. They realized everyone in that room was a highly valuable audience: future engineers, future hires, the exact people companies compete to recruit. So, they approached a company that wanted access to that talent and sold them their 3-minute presentation slot. In just 3 minutes, they made $650. That's almost a 13,000% return. In 2 hours. Let that sink in. And it was not even in 2 hours, if we are being honest. It was in 3 minutes. Why? What happened? The difference wasn't effort. It wasn't intelligence. It was attention. This is how most people operate. We focus on what's visible: money, resources, constraints. We assume those things define what's possible. But often, they're just the loudest variables in the system, not the most important ones. So, where are you still washing cars? In your business, car wash thinking looks like spending 40 hours a week tweaking an email subject line for a 0.5% gain. It's focusing on efficiency, doing things right, instead of effectiveness, doing the right things. The hardest part of leadership is walking away from the car wash. It feels safe to optimize what you can see. But the real signal in your business is rarely in your bank account. It's in your unutilized assets, the data you aren't analyzing, the network you aren't leveraging, the trust you've built but haven't captured. The winning team didn't sell labor. They sold access. They didn't work for the money. They leveraged the system. If you are a CEO, a founder, or a manager, you need to ask yourself the Stanford question every single quarter. If my budget went to 0 tomorrow, how would I still achieve my goal? That question kills the car wash. It forces you to look at the market, the talent, and the timing instead of the envelope. It forces you to stop doing addition and start doing multiplication. So what was the real competitive advantage? It wasn't the capital. If anything, the capital was a constraint. The teams that scaled their results didn't optimize the $5. They stopped treating it as the center of the problem. They stopped asking, how do we use this budget? and started asking, where is the real opportunity? And that's when everything changed. They identified value others ignored. They leveraged assets that were already there. They captured opportunities hidden in plain sight. They found what in business would be called an inefficiency, and they moved on it. In the end, the $5 wasn't a resource. It was a distraction. What are you optimizing right now? That doesn't actually matter. Because in business, the wrong metric doesn't just waste time. It quietly kills your advantage. It makes you feel like you're winning when you're actually just washing cars. Stop looking at the envelope. Start looking at the room. Execution starts with the right question. This is signal over noise.